Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. Trent here, and today we're going to do something that's a little bit different. Today I get a lot of comments and questions both from students and from you guys here on the channel about how effective is Microsoft Flight Simulator as a training aid. And in particular, so the short answer is it's highly effective, and in particular for your instrument training phase of your flight training, it's unbelievably effective. So what we're going to do today is we are going to invent some weather, which would normally be a difficult thing to do in the real world. So we're going to choose, so I have an aftermarket plugin called WPP. I even forget what it stands for, but I'll make sure that I put a link down in the description so you can get this. So you can get all sorts of, freezing, like if you wanted freezing rain, you could do freezing rain. If you wanted blazing sun, you can do blazing sun. If you want a blizzard, you can do a blizzard, building storms, epic overcast. So there's all these presets, and what we're going to do here is going to do low-level clouds. And then, so I'm doing this obviously in VR because I really like flying in VR. And I use Navigraph Charts, which is an add-on for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And it's saying a similar, so the two of them talk to each other, and I keep this in the cockpit. So yes, I want to load the flight plan. So I actually loaded up a flight plan. We are on the ground at Mountain Home Municipal Airport, and we're going to make a very short hop over to the Gowen Airport and do an ILS approach. So let's get our plane fired up. Turn on some fuel. Turn on our MFD, turn on our fuel pump, turn on our ignition, engage make sure we've got all the levers where we need them to be for startup, which is there. And let's go ahead and engage the starter. Now we're looking at NG for 14%, where we are going to introduce fuel into the engine. And I'm running, you don't hear the engine super loud, because I am running in headset mode, and otherwise as you probably saw in my last video, which was my very first video for Flight Simulator, the engine sounds were a little bit overwhelming. And while you can adjust them, I actually quite enjoy flying in headset mode, simply because it's more like the real thing. Like, who wants to listen to the engine when you're flying? All right, so what we're going to do here is we're not going. This is a tiny little municipal airport. There's no departure procedure, but we are going to load up here, and then we'll load up into our flight computer is whatever approach we're going to do. And we are, for this particular flight, we're going to do the ILS runway 28 right. And we are going to do it via tolls. So we're going to add that to route. There we are. And then, so that we can look at our chart without having to take the headset off. And as much as I do dearly love ForeFlight, obviously if I like to fly in VR, can't really use ForeFlight unless I'm pulling my headset off my head all the time, which is no good. So now we're going to pull up the procedure. We're going to select an approach. And we are going to select ILS 28 right via toils. We've got that loaded up, and then let's turn on our minimums. And if we look at the chart, ILS minimums for that is 3121. So we will spin this a whole bunch of times until we get to 312, and I'll just pause it here real quick. All right, so there we go, 302. Oops, actually I'm a little bit shy. Let's go 3130, and we'll go ahead and we're actually going to just activate this particular approach right now. So we've got that loaded and activated. The next thing that we can do is we can pull up the radio. Now, the one thing that I didn't do for this particular flight is set it up such that we might be able to get an IFR after we take off, an IFR flight plan. So we will worry about that in a minute. All right, so let's taxi out. I'm not going to worry about radio calls for the purposes of this video, because really the point of this video is just to show you what a wonderful training tool this is, in particular for IFR flying. So there is our runway over there. And you can see here that little pink arrow, that's my airplane, so it's a real-time map movement, which is great, so you can always see where you are, which is obviously super helpful. Just warm up my rudder pedals there, make sure they're fully configured. Sometimes when you turn the PC on, you just need to depress each rudder pedal fully. Alright, 1 notch of flaps for takeoff, trim is set. Obviously taxiing a little faster than we would normally do, but that's okay. Here we go. Airspeed is alive, and there's our rotation speed, so up we go. And this plane loves a lot of right rudder on takeoff. Alright, so let's put it in heading mode, and we'll turn on the autopilot, and we'll immediately set. So we need to get up to 7,000 feet be able to do this one, so we're going to do that. Set 7,000 feet, and then we're going to say we want to climb at 130 knots. That'll be just fine. Let's pull up those flaps. Probably should have done that just a moment ago. That's okay. Landing light is off. Just get that out of the way so we can see things a little easier. Okay, let's put our CDI into GPS mode, and so if we want to turn to course at this point in time, we would do that simply by adjusting our heading with this knob here. So we'll turn to an intercept course, and then we will enable nav mode. So now you can see that GPS is white, which means it is armed and ready to be active. Heading mode is still active, and that will continue to happen. And this is exactly how it works in the real plane with the G1000, by the way, so it's a really, really wonderful tool. And we'll pull that radio back up. There we go. We can talk to Mountain Home Approach and see if we can get a pop-up IFR. There we go. Flight following.
Mountain Home Approach November 412 Whiskey Mike is type 4 miles northwest of uniform 765,400 feet. Request flight following.
November 412 Whiskey Mike, Mountain Home Approach. Squawk 1532.
Alright, let's acknowledge that squawk code, and you'll see here that with that 1200 change to 1532.
Contact 4 miles northwest of uniform 765,900 feet. Altimeter 29.80.
And now you can see that GPS mode is now active, and so we're going to intercept, the autopilot's going to intercept that course, so let's acknowledge the radar contact. And let's request an IFR clearance for an instrument flight plan.
November 412 Whiskey Mike 5 miles northwest of uniform 76 request IFR to Boise ready to copy.
November 412 Whiskey Mike is cleared to Boise Airport as filed. Squawk 1532.
And we'll go ahead and acknowledge with a readback. Sometimes if the mouse is in the wrong place, my little I have buttons mapped for 1, 2, 3, 4 on the radio, so I don't have to click on them with the mouse.
2 Whiskey Mike, readback correct. Radar contact 6,900 feet. Altimeter 29.80, turn left heading tree 05, resume on navigation climb and maintain 14,000 feet.
Alright, he wants 14,000 feet, so let's acknowledge that.
Turn left heading tree 05, resume own navigation climb and maintain 14,000 feet.
And my guess is they're going to assign us a lower altitude even before we get to 14,000 feet.
2 Whiskey Mike, contact Mountain Home departure on 124.8. Good day.
And so we'll go back into flight level change. We want to climb at a speed of 130 knots. So that's happening. Now we'll acknowledge that handoff.
124.82 Whiskey Mike.
So the radio is actually quite realistic. So Mountain Home departure.
Mountain Home departure November 412 Whiskey Mike is at 7,300 feet, climbing 14,000 feet.
And let's see what he tells us to do.
412 Whiskey Mike, Mountain Home departure altimeter 29.80, continue as planned.
Alright, so continue as planned.
And maintain 5,000 feet.
There you go, 5,000 feet. So let's acknowledge that.
Descend and maintain 5,000 feet
and
to
we'll
Whiskey
hit
Mike.
Alt to capture whatever altitude we're at right now, and then we'll spin that back, which is a bit odd that they're giving us only 5,000 feet. I don't know why they're doing that, but sometimes the radio computer, the AI that Microsoft has built into this thing, gives you some very wonky altitudes for IFR flights. But nonetheless, let's do that, and we'll go flight level change, and we want to go, actually, let's go into vertical speed, and let's go down, oops, there we go, vertical speed, and let's go down at 700 feet per minute, and let's pull back some propeller RPM, which we should have done anyway, and a little bit of manifold pressure. Alright, so you can see here we are flying along our little pink. There's our co-pilot, by the way. Yeah, I'm already expediting, so hush up over there. There's our lovely co-pilot. So you can see here, and by the way, this Kodiak 100, this is a third-party marketplace aircraft. This thing is absolutely just a wonderful airplane to fly. It's got amazing sounds, an amazing interior, amazing graphics, amazing realism. Like, for example, if I open that window right now, it basically causes the plane to crash, but it's a bit weird. Anyway, so you can see we are headed towards Toils. You can see the same thing on the MFD here. So this is really like having the charts on ForeFlight, which as we go through today's flight, you're going to see how incredibly important that is. So 113.3. If we're going to do the mist, and we might do the mist in this particular flight just to show you, but 113.3, let's go ahead and set that up in one of our comms. So 113.3, we'll make that active, and then we'll go down here, PFD options, and bearing 1, we'll set it at nav 1, so you can see that's now pointing at the VOR, that is the Boise VOR. And in COM 2, 110.15, you can see that 110.15 is our ILS approach frequency, so that's already preloaded, and that happened when we loaded up the approach over here. So all of this, again, is identical to how it is in the real world when you're flying a G1000 using plates, and with the radio here, it's also very, very similar, if not identical, to what you're going to be doing on the radio in the real world. Okay, so now we have a couple of minutes. There we go. Okay, let's do that. Hopefully we'll get a altitude that makes a bit more sense than what we've got now.
Approach November 412 Whiskey Mike is at 6,300 feet, descending 5,000 feet.
November 412 Whiskey Mike approach altimeter 29.80, continue as planned.
Alright, so you can see here the autopilot is guiding us around this corner and down the track that we're doing, which is exactly what we wanted it to be. We're in GPS mode, autopilot is on. Vertical speed is minus 700 feet per minute, which is also shown over here. This is our current altitude, this is our target altitude, this is our rate of descent, our actual rate of descent, this is our altimeter setting over here, this is our heading bug, which I am just in the habit, thanks to one of my instructors by the name of Colin, he said always bug your heading, no matter what heading you're on, so we're going to do that there. And so we've just flown over Toils, and the next one is going to be Zeetel, and those are both at 7,000, so we're technically too low, so this is where I'm going to ignore the dude on the radio, because we need to be at the correct heights for this particular instrument approach. So flight level change, let's go up. I don't know why it's only allowing me 5 knots up. That makes no sense at all. Let me try this again here with some other buttons. There we go. So let's climb at 125 knots, and we're going to get back up to 7,000 feet. Eventually, this guy might catch up, and he'll bug us for a while to say descend, descend, descend. But at some point, it recognizes that you're flying an approach. And so jolty, so now we're past Zeetel, we can actually descend to 6,300. Look at that. So we're going to actually capture 6,300. And 6,300, so I hit the Alt button, and that's going to capture 6,300. because at this point in the approach, and now you can see it's also automatically switched over to green needles, so we've intercepted the localizer. We're going to have to arm the approach, which we've done there, which we've just captured the glide slope. So that is fantastic. And then we pay attention here to our plan view. So we're between Jolty, we're headed to the final approach fix, and our altitude there can be 6,000. So we will bug 6,000. And because actually we don't have to do anything with the altitude anymore, because we've intercepted the glide slope and we're on autopilot, it's going to, so this little green triangle here is our vertical guidance. If we were doing a WAS approach, this would be magenta.
Please expedite your descent 5,000 feet.
Oh, hush up. We'll just keep listening to him yak at us and maybe he'll clue in. But it does switch over automatically from GPS mode to localizer mode when you intercept the glide slope, which is fabulous. Probably should start slowing down a little bit as well. So now we are inside the final approach fix. So let's get us, let's slow down some more, and we will get configured for landing. So that's going to require a landing light. And we are going to go mist on this. So mist is climb 6,000, so we've got 6,000 bugged. And then outbound on BOI VOR radial 279 to Atoll, which is 13.4 miles DME from Boise. So that's why I've got Boise programmed in here. You can see the DME here. We'll talk more about that later when we're actually doing the mist. But for now, we're in a flap safe speed, so we're going to put down 1 notch of flaps. We're going to go full forward on the RPM, and now we're simply going to let the autopilot fly us down the glide slope, and I am going to manage the throttle. So you can see we're really slowing down. I don't want to slow down that much, so we're adding a little bit of throttle in. We're going to just come in at about 100 knots. So little micro adjustments to the throttle here to try and get it to settle in right at 100 knots. Or somewhere close to that. Probably make it a little easier to see. And just over here on the MFD, and again, this is what I do in the real world, you can make the flight plan go away, and you can just look at the screen, and you can see where you're at. I always like to keep this portion here visible when I'm flying an approach, because I also want to see the various waypoints on the approach.
700 feet below your assigned altitude. Climb and maintain 5,000 feet altimeter 29.80.
So unfortunately, like I say, this I will just acknowledge that instruction. This is a bug. Very clearly, we're not, we're on final approach here, so we do not need to be at 5,000 feet. We are right on the glide slope, doing exactly, and you can see here we are popping out of the bottom of the clouds. Now the cool thing about the weather, so you can make, let's say you want your minimums to be even a little lower, so I could choose this cloud layer here. Let's select it. There we go. And we can make it denser. And we can bring the bottom down, and we can make it really dense if we want to. So now we still can't even basically see anything out the window in front of us. So you can give yourself the worst weather imaginable. You can give turbulence, you can give all sorts of things to really test your skills. But again, that's really not what this video is about.
Mike, please expedite your climb 5,000 feet.
Oh, I'm just going to cancel IFR because you're annoying.
Approach 2 Whiskey Mike. Cancel IFR at this time.
Okay, so we'll ignore the radio.
IFR flight plan is canceled. Radar service terminated.
And you can see there while I was doing that, didn't do a good job of managing my speed. So we're going to just make a little adjustment here to get us back to around 90 knots because we're pretty darn close. We're now, you can see 1.7 miles from the threshold and missed approach point.
500.
There's the rabbit on 28 left, and we're flying in on 28 right, which you're going to see just appearing before us there. So 500, we'll put in a second notch of flaps, and we'll actually flick the autopilot off now just for fun and hand fly it in. There's our PAPI lights over on the left. You can see we're right on the glide slope. You can see by that green diamond that we're also still right on the glide slope, which is great. And then when we get down, we'll just assume that, we can't see the ground. We're down at minimums. If we were already below minimum. We are already below minimums. Minimums are 3,130 feet. So we'll assume that we couldn't see the ground, so we're leveling off. And are we at the missed approach point yet? There's this little right here shows you that we are at 0.1. And there we go. So now we can go missed, so full throttle, 1 notch of flaps up. Let's put it back in GPS mode. A little too much power there. And put it in heading mode, and we'll turn the autopilot back on. And so now we'll do a flight level change, select the speed. And there's that little bug again, so we're going to do it with some my peripheral controls here. There we go. Let's say we're going to climb out at 100 and I'll just randomly pick a number of 130. And by the way, this is all exactly how you would fly a procedure like this. So it says outbound on VOR R279. So if you didn't want to use GPS, right now we're in heading mode, so we could fly GPS, which is the easy way, to be honest with you. Or you really wanted to get some practice, so BOI is VOR1. We can center it up, and we should be able to put it into nav mode for the VOR. Now, that is not, it's odd that it's not turning green, so here, let's put it in heading mode. And we'll just turn a little to the left here and see if it will intercept. So this magenta, this little blue dealie here is my heading bug. You can see we're pretty well lined up. I'm not sure why the VOR is not becoming active and having the autopilot fly it out, because we are absolutely on. And we're supposed to be on radial 279. So if I turn this around, it'll show radial 279. So slow to turn. So you can see the course there where it says 289, 279. There we go. And so now VOR has become active. That was the issue. I didn't have the right course turned in. So now it's going to fly us out. Right, currently we're at DME 5.6 from the BOI VOR. And as you can see in the mist, when we get to DME 13.4, we're supposed to perform a hold. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that and how to time it and how to make those turns. Again, if you left it in GPS mode, it would literally do it all for you. So in the real world, unless you're trying to make extra work for yourself, you wouldn't be flying this in green needles right now. In the CDI would not be in this mode. It would simply be a magenta line, and GPS would fly the whole darn thing for you. But one of the things that you do have to do when you're doing your instrument training... Why am I getting a beep? What are we not happy about? Oh, I left some flaps down. That's what we're not happy about. There we go. Because I exceeded. You can see right here. So, one of the things that I just failed to do, so on a mist, it's power up, pitch up, clean up, fess up. So power up, full power, pitch up, pitch the nose up, clean up, pull your flaps up. But I was too busy talking to you guys, so I missed the cleanup part. And fess up is, you'd be on the radio, you'd say Mountain Home or Approach, this is 2 Whiskey Mike declaring mist, and we're going to fly the published mist. And they would say, okay, great, go ahead and fly the hold, and then you would talk to them again. He'd say probably report back when you're inbound from the hold. So as you can see here, we're headed out towards Atoll, which is the fix on the hold. Holds are, so this is the protected side of the hold. This is the unprotected side, not allowed to go over there whenever you're doing a hold. So when we get there, and it's right now we're at DME 10.4, remember we need to be DME 13.4. When we get there, I'm going to start a stopwatch, and we're going to do some timed turns. And that's why I put it in green needles mode, to show you how to do all this stuff, because when you're doing your instrument training, part of your check ride is going to be able to show that you know how to fly a hold without GPS flying it for you. So we are just another couple of miles from, as you can see, from getting to atoll, whatever you want to call it. And then what we're going to do, so if you look here, so the outbound is a heading of 279, and so we are going to do a teardrop entry into this particular hold. So that means our heading mode, so we can turn our heading bug to, we want to be 45 degrees off of 279, so that'll be a heading of roughly 235. So there's 235. And then when we get to DME, so we're at DME 13.9, 13.4, we missed it. So there we go. Let's go right into heading mode. And you'll see that the aircraft is turning to the left. Once wings are level, we will start our timer for 1 minute. And then we'll turn around and we'll set this up for an intercept and so forth. So there's wings level, so let's go ahead and start our timer. So there's our timer, we're going to fly 1 minute. Okay, so the inbound course is 099. So we're going to turn this over to 099 because this, we want to intercept. If we're practicing VOR, we want to intercept the VOR. So 099. So there we go. And after we get a minute, we're going to make a right-hand turn. And you'll see how I'm going to make the autopilot do the intercept on the VOR radial that we're looking for, so we can fly back, and then we'll go ahead and redo the approach. So what are we, 45 seconds? Okay. So we'll get our little fingers on the heading bug down here and wait for our time to go. And it will be a right turn. So 56, 57, 58, 59. Okay, let's initiate a right turn. And we want to turn to a heading that will allow us to intercept that VOR radial. So we want to be right around there. Confirm our course. Okay, we can stop our timer now, and we'll get rid of that, so tuck that away. And then what we're going to do is we'll put it back in nav mode. You'll see the localizer is on standby when we fly to this radial. So we're turning around here, and we're going to intercept this radial here. So again, same thing over on this map. You can see the same information twice. We're going to come around here, and it's going to intercept that radial, and it's going to fly us back. And at that point, I'm going to put it back into GPS mode, and we are going to fly back to, say, Toils. So in order to set that up, we would select Toils up there, direct, enter. So that's where the GPS is going to fly us back to once I put it back. You can see, okay, so roll mode. Nav, are you going to let us do an intercept here? It doesn't look like it, so heading, there we go. So for whatever reason, it does not want to do the intercept, so that's okay. We will do the intercept ourselves. So I'm back in heading mode, and I'm using my heading bug, and I want to line up the... And again, you can see the aircraft. So the radial is actually to our left, which you can see clearly here. That's the radial to our left. So we'll just fly an intercept course to that radial. And then we will maintain that radial, because for whatever reason, in this particular instance, it does not want to use nav mode to fly us inbound on that particular radial, which it would do in the real aircraft. So there are little bugs in Microsoft Flight Simulator, which... unfortunately, they haven't got them all fixed yet. And that's okay. It still doesn't really take away from the experience a whole lot. Plus, it gives you the extra training on, you know, hey, how do you do things manually if something is not working the way you expect it to work? All right, so let's just actually go a little bit more to the left so that we can intercept that course a little bit quicker. And you can see here that we are flying back towards that course line that we want. You can see the same, let's do this, zoom in a bit. You can see the same thing here. We're flying to that line. That's the radial that we want to intercept. You can see now it is starting to intercept, so we will go ahead and start turning the aircraft so we don't blow past the radial. And we'll once again see if we can get it to go into nav mode. And it's just going roll. Roll only, and that is the correct button. So we'll put it back in heading mode. Alright, now remember, I set us up for GPS to fly back to the waypoint called tolls. So now that we've established ourselves on the radial, there's really no reason why we need to stay on green needles. So let's go ahead and switch it back. And now we can do a direct enter again just to center that needle. And then we can go ahead and put it back in nav mode. And you can see that GPS is enabled. And we are now going to fly direct to tolls, which is 27 miles back this way. So I'm going to speed the aircraft up artificially so that you guys don't get bored while we're sitting here. So let's look at this seconds, and these should speed up when I start speeding the plane up. And everything's moving faster. You can see the plane's moving faster here. My co-pilot's got a really twitchy head. So we'll just do that. We'll go really fast here for a little bit. And then I'll show you what the GPS will do for us. Alright, that's far enough. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see if we slowed back down to the normal rate. Yeah, those seconds look like they're counting down at a real pace that seconds would be counting down at, so we're now back to normal. Notice, look at this, the GPS has got a nice course reversal for us there. So we can reset ourselves up. Now we do need to go back up to 7,000 feet to be at Zettel. So let's go ahead and add 1,000 feet. And then we'll do a flight level change. There we go, nose up. Still doesn't want to work properly. There's a little bug there, so we'll do it this way. When I say this way, I'm actually using my physical controllers to make that adjustment rather than the buttons in the cockpit, because that doesn't seem to be working. Again, Microsoft's not perfect. There are little bugs, but they're so little in most cases that they really do not have a negative impact on the experience whatsoever. So our climb's done. We can pull our RPM back, not work the engine so hard. Alright, so here we are. We're getting ready to fly this course reversal. Let's go ahead and speed things back up a little bit. 3 clicks. So now we're going at, I think, 3 or 4 times the normal speed. So we should start a left turn here real quick. There we go, flying around. And you could do this as well with time turns, 1-minute turns, and with your heading dial, and you could do all the things you need to do, but that's the beauty of GPS, is it's going to fly all this stuff for you. So there we are there. There's my co-pilot with her twitchy head. She must be rocking out some cool music over there. And there we've intercepted and actually blown past. Probably because I've got it in high-speed mode here like this. So we'll slow it back down again. And those 36, 35, 34. There we go. I'm back down to the real-world speed. So apparently, when you speed up the plane, autopilot's not quite as effective. It blew past its turn, but that's okay. So let's go through our checks. We've got our landing light on. We don't have flaps because we don't need any just yet, but we are now only 0.7 miles, so I'm going to go ahead and, oops, let's add a notch of flaps, which is what we would be doing just outside the final approach fix. And we'd probably be slowing, whoops, I just oversped those flaps. That's not good. Let's pull the power back. There we go. And put the prop full forward. And let's rearm the approach. And monitor our speed. Okay, so now we're inside the final approach fix. And we're too high because I didn't fly us down. Too busy talking to you guys and not paying enough attention. So we'll just fix that real easy. We'll just do it. We'll take the autopilot off for a minute. And so we wanted to be over the final approach fix at around 6,000 feet. So we'll descend real quick and see. Yeah, we're past the final approach fix, so we're way above the glide slope at this point in time. So we want to see if we can get down there and find us a glide slope without overspeeding the flaps. And so our next 49 by Widup, but Widup is actually not shown in the list of waypoints. I think we're going to need to, yeah, let's do that. We want to be in number 2. There we go. Localizer. Glide slope. Voila! Okay, great. Autopilot back on. And we are on the glide slope, and we are roughly on course, so good save. So apparently, so as I mentioned earlier in the video, it switched from GPS mode to localizer automatically. But when we flew this mist and came back around here on GPS, the switch did not happen automatically, and if we're not in localizer mode, we don't get our vertical guidance because it is an ILS approach after all, and that's why we overflew. Well, first of all, I didn't descend. Between Zettel and Zixip, I was supposed to fly down 1,000 feet, which I failed to do. Oh, and now I need to add some speed in because we're going way too slow and we've fallen below the glide slope, so we'll get that fixed with an addition of power. A lot going on an approach, especially when you're trying to record a YouTube video at the same time. So we're going to recapture that glide slope, or I should say the autopilot is going to recapture that glide slope beautifully. And not all, well, you can see the ground down there just ever so faintly. Okay, so now we're going to manage speed again, now that we're back on glide slope, back on the localizer. And so we've got 3.6 miles to go until the threshold of the runway, so at our current ground speed of 135, so that's going to take us probably about a minute and a half, minute and 3/4, something like that. And so we're a little quick at 122 knots. Let's dial it back, and this time we're going to land the plane, and then we will wrap up this video. And just want to thank you guys for watching. If you have found this video helpful, I'm happy, and if this video performs well, and by performs well, I mean we get lots of views and lots of comments, I am absolutely happy to do a lot more videos like this, break things down, and maybe not go so quickly. This is really, the purpose of this video was just to not so much teach you how to fly an ILS, as demonstrate what a wonderful tool Microsoft Flight Simulator is for your instrument flight training, because everything that we're doing here now, like normally this would be on my ForeFlight on my iPad, and I would be able to see, just like I can see where I'm at on the pad there, I would be able to see where I'm at on my iPad in the real world. And the G1000 works pretty much exactly the same. The autopilot works the same, so the overlap between the virtual world and the real world is very, very, very high, and that's one of the reasons why I'm such a huge proponent of using Microsoft Flight Simulator when you're working on your instrument rating. And it was something that I did an awful lot of when I was out there at flight school living in my motorhome. I would literally set up this little table in the motorhome, put the computer on, put the VR goggles on, and I would either refly the approaches that I flew that day, or I would fly the approaches that I knew my instructor was going to have me do the next day. And it was a very, very helpful tool to make sure that once I got into the plane, where, you know, I'm paying lots of money for flight time, that I was able to be as efficient and effective as possible, and therefore not waste a whole lot of money flying around not knowing what the heck I was doing. So we will taxi off the runway, and I'm not going to taxi all the way in. We'll just kill the prop right here and come to a coasting stop right over on the taxiway. So again, guys, thanks very much for all your support of the channel. It's truly an honor to be able to do this stuff and get so much positive feedback. We'll just shush up that beep. And if you have questions, make sure you leave those in the comments. If you've got suggestions for future videos that you'd like to see done, why is this still on? I turned it, there we go. If you've got suggestions for future flights that you'd like to see, or destinations or locations, or you have questions about the equipment or the software or what have you, make sure you leave all those down in the comments below. And if you just want to give an attaboy, you can do that as well. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.